talk about, and that is using crimping irons. So most people think that the crimping iron is an old school tool, and in some ways it is. But the fun thing with the crimping iron is that you can create texture that you can get with no other technique. The crimping iron looks just like a flat iron, and then what you'll see inside is these little indentations. It kind of looks like a zigzag. And what this does is it kind of presses into the hair, and it almost acts like a waffle iron. So some of these back in the day were called waffle irons for the hair, or you'll hear some of them like with creative names. At the end of the day, if it gives you a funky look, it's typically a crimping iron. And another variation of a crimping iron is actually a waving iron, which is actually a type of curling iron that's modified that gives more of like a press to the hair, where it gives it a nice wave instead of a crimp. A crimp is kind of like a kinky texture, and when you comb it out, it becomes very frizzy and like messy. And a lot of these crimping irons were used in the 80s and 90s to give a really weird modernized twist to hair, because back then big crazy hair was in. And I look absolutely awful. So one of the cool things that you can do with the crimper is you can use the crimper. You can make this higher. You could use the crimper as well to get volume in styles. So let's say you have a client who comes in and she wants more body to her haircut. You've done like this nice bob on her and she's got very fine hair. Well, the benefit of using a crimper is when you use a crimper, you can actually do that and get height underneath. Now you're not going to crimp the whole head in that case. You're going to go under and just crimp, comb it, and then that creates enough frizz to kind of cushion it. Almost like getting around a tease, because if y'all don't like teasing, I love teasing. A lot of people don't know how to do it because we don't really do many teases and roller sets. Crimping is a good way to kind of mock it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crimp this whole thing. I'm going to do a very basic crimping video. Crimping your hair is going to be time consuming, so typically if you're going to do this either for a school event or some kind of party, you want to set aside at least an hour. If you've never done this before, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. So this is not something you can quickly run, do, and then go. This is something you have to prep your hair for. Good hair takes time is what I always say. Alright, 1 second, now the clip's somewhere. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to section. This mannequin has been pre-straightened. If you do have curly or wavy hair, you are going to want to smooth it first. Reason being is that it doesn't really work as well and it looks very messy. In some cases you might want that messy look, and in other cases you want a perfect crimp. So, I'm going to take my crimping iron like so. I'm going to take a small section of hair. You can see I can zoom in on this. So right here, I'm going to take this like so. I'm going to get up. I can not do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Open. And you can press again. Anywhere between 4 to 10 seconds. You don't want to leave it on too long. Again, it's not like a straightening iron where you're going to be leaving it in the hair. Every hair type is different. You also want to set your temperature accordingly. I have this set on medium for color treated hair. If your hair is very fine or damaged, a lower heat setting will go a long way. And what happens towards the end is that if the ends kind of move on their own, you kind of get this really cool finger wavy texture. And so you can also leave the ends like this if you want, or I prefer to just to finish them to make it look really cool. And when you press, you want to press firmly. Obviously not so hard you're going to break the iron, but just enough where you kind of feel it move. And the important thing is sectioning. You don't want to take sections that are so thick. So if I took this whole section like so, and I just went in like that, it doesn't work as well. So you actually want to break it up. Crimping is a very labor-intensive style, hence why some people might just do it for certain areas. Other people will use crimping all over for a big look, leave it as is. Or if you actually take the crimps and you cone them out, you can do huge, shaggy, crazy-looking styles that are pretty neat. So again, if you want a retail crimping iron, ideally your client who's going to like a crimping iron will be your, high school to college ladies. I've seen a huge influx in people wanting perms. It can be a great tool to add with a perm because of that really vintage look. Typically, you are not going to see your, elderly clients who are 65 and over, or even in their 80s using this. Ladies in their 40s, probably not either. This is usually used with younger clients because it is just so interesting and so fashionable. And there are different kinds of crimpers. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. This is a smaller one. A bigger one would be a little bit easier. But the plates are close in line. They're not separated. There's a little straggler right here. It kind of looks like folded origami. There's also the triangular curling iron, and that produces a crimp-like texture as well. Now, one of the bigger, and I'm sorry if I'm saying a lot, you can tell I'm tired when I do that. A lot of the hair trends that you would see in the 2000s, especially the late 2000s, like 2009, 2008, with the whole emo scene culture, did incorporate a crimping iron. A lot of this was because of the whole scene style. They were kind of crazy, making a crazy fashion scene. You'd have ladies with very high hair that was teased out, and they would also use some crimp pieces. They would also do what we call they call them coontails or raccoon tail highlights, where it was basically done to look just like a raccoon's tail, where you would do a bit of bleach. If the hair was dark, you would leave it, or you would add dark to it, or dye the whole hair dark. You would do bleach and make it look very rough and rigid and horizontal highlights. Personally, I was not a fan of that at all. I thought it looked like such a mess, but it was the style at the time that was interesting. I'll also tell you all that if you ever tried to perm someone's hair when they had the coontail highlights, if you ever tried to curl someone's hair that had the coontail highlights, you would know it would create such an absolute disaster. The hair would just get compromised and fall apart on those areas that were bleached. So if you would do bleach, no bleach, bleach, it would pretty much break off right here and you'd have just chunks of hair coming out. So it was not a good time for hair, and people were doing hair with Kool-Aid. They still do hair with Kool-Aid, but not as much. I think that, ship has kind of sailed on that. And any questions, just post them. I'm going to start trying to go live more often. Let me just see real quick. I had a student once say something that was really funny, and she said that crimping styles looked like the hair was road-killed, and that's a pretty morbid way of saying it, but she absolutely was right. It does have that like tire track look to it that was really interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this up here. Again, if you can just see this, you're going up, and again, you're not going to hit the scalp with this. That would burn. You want to get close to the scalp, but you know, really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let go. Go again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let go. And repeat. So it's always really funny because I have people asking all the time when you're doing crimping styles, is the crimping curling the hair? Is it waving the hair? I've had someone ask, well, is like a weird form of smoothing? And the short answer is no to both. Crimping is in its own realm. It's pretty much indenting the hair with heat. It's interesting style. I'm trying to find more in the history of crimping and how it became to be, but it's definitely an interesting style and something that I think is going to come back with the rise of the perm. So I'm going to go finish crimping the mannequin's hair. I'm going to come back and just show you all a quick, very basic style. You can either leave the crimps as is, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to hairspray it and then comb it through and really give it a lot of a crazy looking volume and texture. So I'll see y'all soon.